I often get questions about angels, and I don't really work with angels myself. Don't like working with angels, but there's a variety of reasons for that, and that has to do with my own interpretation of them. But I find that the two main misconceptions that tend to come up quite a lot is, firstly, that angels are singular entities, like we may look at a god or a goddess. And even that interpretation is not entirely correct. But it seems to be that people think that an angel is this anthropomorphized personification of one thing, and it's just a singular body, like we may interact with a human being. And you can call them for all sorts of things, even to help you in your life, money problems, healing problems, whatever, right? Um, and then the other misconception tends to be revolving around whether you can work with angels and divine names, sacred names, names of power, etc., etc., even if you're working with demonic forces, right? That is definitely a misconception. That in itself kind of brings across the Christian worldview that angels are good, demons are bad. All right, and that's not the case. I have, however, every time this question comes up, something related to it, I have been saying for a long time that I will read some excerpts from Ladder of Lights by William G. Gray, which kind of explain all of this. And that's what I'm finally getting around to today. All right, so there's a few passages I want to get to. Firstly, in order to understand a lot of this, and the reason I say this, just to preface this, is that when we're talking about angels, they are not the same as archangels. Two very different things, right? And they fall into two different areas or two different worlds on the actual tree of life within Kabbalah itself, right? So this is all related to Kabbalah, but as far as the worlds pertaining to Kabbalah and the tree of life go, it would probably be better if you actually did a bit more exploration yourself, because what I'm presenting here, what I'm reading here, is the very basics of what we're talking about. And it doesn't really give you a good understanding of what it is. But you need to be introduced to the four worlds in order to understand why the angels and the archangels are different entities. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and read some of these passages. All right, so we start with this is really in reference to the four worlds. In Atziluth, the world of origins, we work with contemplation. In Bria, the creative world, we use meditation, while in Yetzirah, the formative world, what is sometimes called ritual magic applies. Finally, in Asiya, the world of expression, we must act in terms of earth life. Thus, we do weave the Kabbalistic pattern of life as the tree teaches us. Then a little bit more into the four worlds themselves. As I said, I just need to introduce this so that you understand the next bit. In Atziluth, the world of archetypes, all originates or begins to be something. At that point, it is simply typified in the broadest possible sense, such as this was nothing, it will now be cellular life. In Bria, creation takes place. This defines the type of existence into its definite category, like this was this was cellular life. It will now become part of a human being. In Yetzirah, formation occurs and the previous processes are focused to still finer points by clearly defining the nature of the product. As in, this was cellular life, matter forming human bodies. It will now be formed into the tip of a left little finger belonging to such and such a human being, etc., etc. In Asya, or the material world we live in, the first three processes are projected into earthly actualities. When they have served their purpose, they are reabsorbed by death or dissolution and returned back to the nothing before being re-originated. All right, so you can see the progression, and it's a bit like, it can be explained a bit like a factory. You know, you kind of like have this process that you go through from getting the raw materials, various processes, until you actually get the finished product at the end, right? So these four worlds are kind of like these emanations that refine what's coming through. Okay. Now, when it comes to those four worlds, we have Atziluth, which is the originator, is seen as a direct God aspect. So when working with the different Sephiroth within Atziluth, we are usually working or referring to the names of power or God names and things like that. And that's the aspect of Hashem that we actually work with within Kabbalah. In Bria, the creator is termed an archangel. Okay, so now you've got this refining that starts to happen. Now it's into the world of the archangels. In Yetzirah, the next world, the formators are called angels. Now we have the world of the angels. Different worlds, completely and utterly different worlds that we're actually interacting with. So we cannot say that the archangels are angels. They're not. Okay, and this is one of the biggest problems that we find in our modern magic today, is that we keep mixing up the archangels with the angels, and they're not the same. And then in Asiya, the expressors are named planetary powers. All right. Then, now we start going into the bits about the angels themselves. So we can kind of consider these entities to be these forces of power. All right, and they are not singular entities. They are groups. They are bodies with many, many, many cells, and the cells are the angelic beings, right? So when we think about an angel, this is a destructive angel, for instance, is going to destroy things, because we need to destroy things in order to rebuild things, like a forest fire. It needs to rip through a forest and completely, utterly decimate it and kill many, many, many animals and insects and trees and plants and everything else. But at the end of that, after that process, then it starts to grow back new and fresh and everything else. So there's this destruction and creation that happens in nature all the time, within the cosmos, within the universe, within everything. And that's kind of like where we find the angels. They are these big forces, these powers that control things within the cosmos, right? So reading the next bit here, we must get out of the bad habit of seeing angels and archangels as fairy-like winged beings created entirely for the good of mankind. They're not. They are units of specialized energy with an inherent awareness which enables them to accomplish, or at least attempt, the original intent behind them. Angels are more like guided missiles than bodiless babies with wings. Just love the way William Gray used to put things. And then also, excuse me, one thing we must remember when One thing we must remember when considering angelic beings is that whatever their nature may or may not be, they are control points in the adaptation of power on an unimaginable scale to different units of creation. They are responsible for adapting energies within the safety limits of everything and everyone. In order for existence to continue in formation at all, angelic operations must take place to keep those forms existing as they should. Angels, on the whole, work to establish an harmonious interchange of energies between all differentiated types of being. Okay. Now, I would actually say, if you're interested in this and you want to learn more, I definitely recommend getting this book. It's The Ladder of Lights by William G. Gray. He goes into more and more and more of this stuff and breaks it down further and further and explains it in a way that I find I can't really explain quite succinctly. All right, but I definitely recommend getting the book. It's brilliant. All of William G. Gray's books are brilliant, so you can't go wrong with them. Right. But I just wanted to introduce this. I wanted to kind of try and explain it, not just from my perspective, but from an actual person who was considered one of the greatest Western magicians that ever lived. All right. that's the explanation from William G. Gray. Very basic. As I said, this is purely just a pinprick of an introduction. In order to learn more and understand more, you're going to have to delve in a lot deeper. Okay, but not much I can really do on quite a short video. But anyway, I hope that helped slightly, a little bit. Okay, but anyway, cheers. Thanks for watching.